Obviously, I knew if anything went wrong, I knew, like with cars, straight on the phone with my dad. Like finding a supercar graveyard is very rare.
Have you ever watched someone prove the entire world wrong? Not just once, but again and again, until even the biggest names in the industry are forced to pay attention? That is exactly what has happened with Mat Armstrong. And now, as he approaches his 33rd birthday on June 11th, 2026, something huge is happening behind the scenes. While millions of fans are focused on his unbelievable Bugatti Chiron rebuild, Mat has quietly been making decisions that could completely change the next chapter of his life and career. Decisions that few people saw coming. Decisions that might take his success to a level even his biggest supporters never imagined. Right now, Mat Armstrong stands at a fascinating point in his journey. He is no longer just a guy rebuilding crashed supercars in a garage. He is no longer simply a YouTuber with a camera and a dream. Over the past few years, he has transformed himself into one of the most recognizable automotive creators in the world. His videos attract millions of viewers. His projects are discussed by car enthusiasts across the globe. Even the leaders of some of the world's most famous car manufacturers know exactly who he is. That alone is remarkable when you consider where he started. Today, people see Lamborghinis, Ferraris, McLarens, and Bugattis. They see huge workshops, expensive tools, and a growing business empire. But what many people forget is that Mat Armstrong did not begin with any of those things. He was not born into a world of luxury supercars. He did not inherit a giant automotive company. He did not have a team of experts waiting to help him succeed. Instead, he built everything step by step through years of hard work, determination, and an unwillingness to quit when life became difficult. The timing of this latest chapter makes it even more interesting. At almost 33 years old, many people might expect Mat to slow down and enjoy what he has already achieved. After all, he has accomplished more than most creators could ever dream of. His channel has grown into one of the biggest automotive brands on YouTube. His rebuild projects regularly trend online. He has earned the respect of fans and professionals alike. For many people, that would be enough. But Mat Armstrong has never been the type of person to settle. In fact, if there's one thing his career has shown, it is that he seems to become more ambitious every year. Every project is bigger than the last one. Every challenge is more difficult. Every risk is greater. What started with simple repair videos eventually became complete supercar rebuilds. Then those rebuilds became world-famous automotive projects. And now, with the entire automotive world watching his every move, Mat appears to be preparing for something even larger. That is why so many fans are paying attention right now. The Bugatti Chiron project alone would be enough to keep most creators busy for years. It is one of the most ambitious rebuilds ever attempted on YouTube. Many experts believed it could not be done. Others thought it was simply too risky. Yet Mat accepted the challenge anyway. That willingness to tackle impossible projects has become his trademark. It is the reason millions of viewers continue to return to his channel week after week. But while everyone's been talking about the Bugatti, another story has been quietly developing in the background. A story about the future. A story about growth. A story about a bold move that could completely change the direction of Mat Armstrong's life. And to truly understand why this moment matters so much, we first need to go back to the beginning and look at the young boy from Leicester who never imagined that one day he would become one of the most influential automotive creators on the planet. The story of Mat Armstrong did not begin with supercars, millions of subscribers, or world-famous rebuild projects. It began in the English city of Leicester, far away from the glamorous world of hypercars and automotive celebrities. Long before anyone knew his name, Mat was simply a young boy growing up around tools, engines, and the smell of oil. Looking back now, it almost feels like his future was quietly being built years before he ever picked up a camera. One of the biggest influences in Mat's life was his father, Tony Armstrong. Tony worked as a mechanic, and because of that, Mat spent much of his childhood surrounded by cars. While many children were spending their free time playing video games or watching television, Mat was learning how vehicles worked. He watched repairs take place. He listened to conversations about engines and mechanical problems. He learned things that most people do not discover until much later in life. At the time, these experiences may have seemed ordinary. After all, when you grow up around something every day, it becomes normal. But those early lessons would eventually become one of the greatest advantages Matt ever had years later. When millions of viewers watched him rebuild some of the most expensive cars on Earth, the foundation for those skills could be traced all the way back to his childhood. Yet cars were not actually Matt's first passion. Before becoming one of YouTube's biggest automotive creators, Matt had a completely different dream. His focus was BMX riding. He dedicated countless hours to improving his skills and pushing himself to become better. BMX was not just a hobby for him. It was something he genuinely loved. The sport gave him excitement, purpose, and a clear goal to chase. As he improved, Matt began competing at increasingly higher levels. He traveled, practiced relentlessly, and worked hard to establish himself in the BMX community. Anyone who has ever pursued a sport seriously knows how much sacrifice is required. There are early mornings, long training sessions, injuries, disappointments, and endless hours of effort that nobody sees. Matt embraced all of it. What makes this period of his life especially important is that BMX gave him more than athletic skills. It also introduced him to content creation. While riding and competing, he often filmed himself and his friends. He learned how cameras worked. He learned how to tell stories through video. He learned how to capture exciting moments and share them with an audience. Without realizing it, he was developing two completely different skill sets at the same time. The first was mechanical knowledge from growing up around his father's garage. The second was content creation through filming BMX. Years later, those two worlds would come together perfectly. However, life rarely follows a straight path. Like many young people chasing a dream, Matt faced challenges along the way. His parents separated during his childhood, which created difficulties that helped shape his character. He also took on various jobs while growing up. These jobs were not glamorous. He worked hard to earn money and support his interests. He spent time working in his father's garage, learning even more about cars. He delivered food. He worked behind bars serving customers. He gained experience in automotive retail and tuning shops. Each job taught him something valuable. More importantly, each job reinforced a strong work ethic. This part of Matt's story often gets overlooked because people are naturally drawn to the exciting supercar projects. They see the expensive vehicles and assume success arrived quickly. The reality is very different. The Mat Armstrong we see today was built through years of ordinary work, persistence, and determination. There was no magical shortcut. There was no overnight success story. There were simply thousands of hours spent learning, improving, and working towards something better. At that stage of his life, Matt probably believed BMX would remain his future. He had no way of knowing that a single injury was about to change everything. What happened next would end one dream completely, but would also open the door to an opportunity far bigger than anything he could have imagined. And that unexpected turning point would become the moment that changed his life forever. Sometimes the biggest turning points in life arrive without warning. One moment, everything seems to be moving in the right direction. The next moment, a single event changes everything. For Mat Armstrong, that moment came during what should have been one of the most exciting periods of his BMX career. By this stage, Matt had invested years into becoming a serious BMX rider. He had dedicated countless hours to training, improving his skills, and competing against talented riders from around the world. BMX was not just something he enjoyed doing. It had become a major part of his identity. Every goal, every plan, and every dream seemed connected to the sport. Then disaster struck. During the qualification round of the BMX World Championships, Matt suffered a serious shoulder injury while performing a difficult trick. For an athlete, there are few things more frustrating than getting injured at the exact moment when years of hard work are finally paying off. He had earned his place. He had qualified. He had the chance to prove himself on one of the biggest stages possible. But his body had other plans. The injury was not a minor setback that would heal in a few weeks. The damage was significant enough to create long-term problems. His shoulder continued to dislocate repeatedly, sometimes even while he was sleeping. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night because your shoulder has slipped out of place. Imagine dealing with that fear every day while trying to compete at an elite level. Eventually, Matt faced a painful reality. His BMX career could not continue. For many people, this would have been the end of the story. Years of effort had disappeared. The dream he had worked towards since he was young was suddenly gone. It would have been easy to become bitter. It would have been easy to blame bad luck. It would have been easy to accept defeat and move on with a normal life. Instead, Mat made a decision that would define the rest of his future. He chose to adapt. One of the most impressive things about successful people is not that they avoid failure. It is that they respond differently when failure arrives. Rather than focusing on what he had lost, Mat began looking at what he still had. He still had his knowledge. He still had his mechanical skills. He still had his understanding of cameras and video creation. Most importantly, he still had the determination that had helped him compete at a high level in BMX. The challenge now was figuring out how to use those strengths in a completely different way. Interestingly, Mat had already started experimenting with YouTube. Back in 2013, he launched a channel that focused primarily on BMX content. At first, it was simply a place to share riding videos and document his experiences. Like many creators, he had no idea where it would eventually lead. After his injury, however, the channel suddenly became much more important. He needed a new direction. He needed a new purpose. And fate delivered one in the most ordinary way possible. One day, his girlfriend's car developed a problem and needed repairs. For most people, this would have been a small inconvenience. You take the car to a mechanic, pay the bill, and continue with your life. But Mat saw something different. He saw content. Drawing on the mechanical knowledge he had learned throughout his childhood, he decided to fix the car himself. More importantly, he decided to film the process. He documented the repair step by step and uploaded the video online. That simple decision changed everything. The response surprised him. People enjoyed watching the repair process. They liked seeing a real problem being solved. They enjoyed learning about cars. Most importantly, they connected with Mat's honest and straightforward style. He was not pretending to be an expert television presenter. He was simply showing viewers exactly what he was doing and sharing the experience with them. For the first time, Mat realized something important. People were not just interested in finished cars. They were interested in the journey. They wanted to see mistakes. They wanted to see challenges. They wanted to see problems being solved. And without realizing it, Mat Armstrong had just discovered the formula that would eventually make him one of the biggest automotive creators in the world. But turning that discovery into a successful career would require years of patience, hard work, and persistence. Success was still a long way away, and the hardest part of the journey had only just begun. Finding a new direction after losing a dream is never easy. For Mat Armstrong, the decision to focus more seriously on YouTube did not instantly solve all his problems. In fact, the next few years were filled with uncertainty, long hours, and very little reward. Today, people see millions of subscribers and assume success happened quickly. The truth is far different. Behind every viral video and every famous rebuild project were years of effort that most viewers never witnessed. After discovering that people enjoyed watching his repair videos, Mat began creating more automotive content. He realized that cars offered something unique. They combined everything he loved. There was problem-solving, creativity, storytelling, and hands-on mechanical work. Most importantly, every car came with its own story. At first, however, growth was slow. This is a part of success that many people never talk about. Everyone loves hearing about the breakthrough moment, but very few people discuss the years before it happens. During those early days, Mat was filming videos without knowing whether they would succeed. He was spending hours recording footage, editing videos, and uploading content while trying to balance the rest of his life. There were no guarantees, no roadmap, no promise that any of it would work. Many creators quit during this stage because the rewards do not match the effort. You can spend an entire week making a video and receive only a handful of views. It can feel like shouting into an empty room. But Mat kept going. Week after week, he uploaded content. Month after month, he improved his skills. Year after year, he learned what audiences enjoyed watching. One of the biggest advantages Mat had was authenticity. He was not pretending to be something he was not. He genuinely understood cars because he had spent years learning about them. When he explained a repair, viewers trusted him. When he faced a challenge, viewers knew it was real. That honesty helped build a loyal audience long before his channel became famous. Another factor that separated Mat from many other creators was his willingness to show the entire process. Most people only want to display success. They hide mistakes and failures. Mat did the opposite. If something went wrong, viewers saw it. If a repair became difficult, viewers experienced the frustration with him. If a project seemed impossible, viewers watched him work through the problem step by step. This approach created something powerful. Instead of simply watching cars get repaired, people felt like they were part of the journey. Every setback became more dramatic. Every success became more satisfying. Slowly but surely, the audience grew. Then came a major turning point. Around 2018, Mat began focusing heavily on rebuilding damaged and written-off performance cars. This type of content was perfect for YouTube. Every project had built-in suspense. Viewers wanted to know whether the car could be saved. They wanted to see the transformation. They wanted to experience the moment when a badly damaged vehicle returned to life. The formula worked. Some of his rebuild videos started gaining serious attention. More viewers discovered the channel. Subscriber numbers increased. The automotive community began taking notice. Then the momentum became impossible to ignore. By 2020, Mat's channel was experiencing explosive growth. Videos that once attracted small audiences were now reaching hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of viewers. People were fascinated by his ability to buy damaged supercars and restore them to their former glory. What made the content special was not just the cars themselves. It was the emotion. Anyone can show a finished Lamborghini. Mat showed viewers the broken Lamborghini. He showed them the damaged parts. He showed them the stress. He showed them the financial risks. And then he showed them the victory. That storytelling style created an emotional connection that many creators struggle to achieve. Viewers were no longer just watching Mat Armstrong. They were rooting for him. As the channel continued growing, bigger opportunities started appearing. More ambitious projects became possible. More expensive cars entered the workshop. More people began paying attention to what he was doing. Little did Mat know that the projects ahead would take him from rebuilding damaged supercars to becoming one of the most talked about names in the entire automotive world. And eventually, one particular project would change everything. A project so ambitious that it would attract the attention of one of the most famous car manufacturers on Earth. By the time Mat Armstrong's channel started gaining real momentum, it had become clear that he had discovered something special. He was no longer just making videos about repairing everyday vehicles. He had found a niche that perfectly matched his skills, personality, and audience. That niche was rebuilding damaged supercars that many people believe could never be saved. For car enthusiasts, there's something fascinating about seeing a wrecked supercar brought back to life. These vehicles are often worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and when they're involved in accidents, repair costs can become incredibly expensive. In many cases, insurance companies decide that fixing the car simply is not worth the money. The vehicle gets written off, and most people assume its story is over. Mat saw opportunity where others saw failure. Instead of looking at a damaged Lamborghini and seeing a disaster, he saw a challenge. He saw a puzzle waiting to be solved. Most importantly, he saw a story that millions of viewers would want to follow. One of the projects that helped put Mat on the map involved rebuilding a wrecked Lamborghini Huracan. The car had suffered serious damage, and many people doubted it could ever return to its former condition. But Mat approached the challenge with the same determination that had carried him through every stage of his life. The rebuild attracted huge attention. Viewers became invested in every step of the process. They wanted to know whether he would succeed. They wanted to see the obstacles he encountered. They wanted to experience the moment when the car finally came back to life. When that moment arrived, it felt like a victory not only for Mat, but also for everyone who had followed the journey. That project helped establish a formula that would become the foundation of his success. Find a damaged supercar. Take viewers through every challenge. Show every setback. Show every solution. Deliver an unforgettable transformation. Simple in theory, extremely difficult in practice. As Matt's confidence grew, the project became bigger and more ambitious. Ferrari started appearing in the workshop. McLaren's followed. Each new rebuild brought higher stakes and greater risks. The cars were more expensive. The repairs were more complicated. The financial pressure increased dramatically. But with every successful project, Matt's reputation grew stronger. Viewers began trusting him with seemingly impossible challenges. More importantly, they trusted him to tell the story honestly. If something went wrong, he did not hide it. If a repair failed, he showed the audience exactly what happened. This transparency created a connection that many creators struggled to achieve. Soon, Mat Armstrong was no longer simply a YouTuber. He had become a recognized figure within the automotive world. Millions of people were watching his videos. Automotive media outlets were discussing his projects. Manufacturers and industry professionals knew exactly who he was. Yet the most remarkable thing about his rise was that he never abandoned the style that made him successful. Despite the growing audience and larger budgets, his videos still felt personal. They still felt authentic. Viewers still felt like they were standing beside him in the workshop, sharing every challenge and every breakthrough. That authenticity became one of his greatest strengths. As his audience expanded, so did the scale of his ambitions. A normal rebuild was no longer enough. A damaged Ferrari was impressive, but people had seen Matt rebuild Ferraris before. A wrecked Lamborghini was exciting, but he had already proven he could handle those projects. To continue growing, he needed something bigger, something far bigger. Then an opportunity appeared that seemed almost unbelievable. A heavily damaged Bugatti Chiron per Sport. Not a Lamborghini, not a Ferrari, not even a McLaren. A Bugatti, one of the most exclusive and expensive hypercars in the entire world. The type of vehicle most people will never see in person. The type of vehicle that requires extraordinary expertise and resources just to maintain. The moment news of the damaged Bugatti began spreading, people across the automotive world started paying attention. The repair costs were enormous. The damage was severe. Many believed the project was simply too complicated. Some thought attempting to rebuild was impossible. Others thought it was reckless. But for Mat Armstrong, the challenge represented something else. It represented the biggest opportunity of his career. And what happened next would not only become the most ambitious project he had ever attempted, it would also create a controversy so large that even the leadership of Bugatti itself would become involved.